Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us for stories making headlines at this hour. I am Hassan Engelbrecht. The Mine Workers Union of Namibia says workers who went on strike at the Rossing mine will go back to work tomorrow. Rossing uranium mine launched another urgent application before the High Court today after the MUN filed a notice of appeal against yesterday's ruling declaring the strike illegal. But the MUN branch chairman at Rossing, Ismail Kasuto, says although the workers will go back to work, the MUN will conduct another strike ballot over 2011 production incentives. Following the High Court ruling, the MUN filed notice of appeal shortly afterwards, forcing Rossing to go back to court on an urgent basis this morning to ask that the ruling remain in force despite the notice of appeal. Now, new members of the Electoral Commission of Namibia were introduced by National Assembly Speaker Dr. Theoben Gurirap in Windhoek today. 2 of the 5 commissioners are women, and one of them, Advocate Nothemba Chipweya, was elected as chairperson of the ECN. Now, Chipweya succeeded the long-serving chairperson Dr. Victor Tonchi, who is no longer part of the commission. The new commissioners are Chipweya, Ulrich Freyer, Barney Karumbe, Rodney Guisep and Albertina Nangolo. They were recently appointed by President Hifikepunye Pohamba in terms of the Electoral Act from a shortlist compiled by a selection committee. The Namibian and Kenyan governments have signed a memorandum of understanding for Namibia to receive an additional 100 nurses and 26 doctors from that country. The memorandum of understanding was signed by the visiting Kenyan Minister of Medical Services, Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, and Namibian Health Deputy Minister Petrina Ngura in Windhoek last night. Now, the signing of the agreement followed a 5-day visit to Namibia by the Kenyan minister and his delegation. The Kenyan Medical Services Minister and his delegation visited the Windhoek Central Hospital's cardiac unit, Karatura State Hospital, the University of Namibia's School of Medicine, and the Rundu Intermediate Hospital. We continue with business news now. Agriculture remains the backbone of the Namibian economy, with meat exports to Europe a major revenue-generating component. Farmers are also increasingly updating their farming methods to ensure they meet global standards. Small livestock farmers who are maintaining excellent standards were awarded at the Windhoek Agriculture and Industrial Show. The show once again featured various championships in the various livestock categories. Breeders went the extra mile this year to show their best stock, leaving judges with a difficult task during the judging. First-time small livestock exhibitors say it is a learning curve for them, and it is always encouraging to see what others are doing. And in international news, gunmen have opened fire in the commercial capital of Cameroon, Douala, killing at least 1 person in an apparent anti-government protest. Reports say the gunmen were dressed in military uniforms and were carrying placards demanding that President Paul Biya step down. Biya is widely expected to win a presidential election on the 9th of October, and he has been in power for almost 30 years and is one of Africa's longest-serving heads of state. In 2008, he changed the constitution to remove limits on the presidential term, provoking nationwide unrest. And in sports news, the National Rugby World Cup side returned home to a rousing welcome at the Hosea Kutako International Airport last night. Among the crowd, which anxiously awaited the team's arrival, were fans, families, sport officials, journalists and friends who all lined up in the airport terminal. Now, they were there to show their appreciation to their heroes who played bravely in their matches in the World Cup. Despite looking tired due to a long flight from New Zealand, the players interacted with the fans, chatting and signing autographs before they boarded the bus to Windhoek. Those were the stories making headlines at this hour. Enjoy the rest of your evening's viewing. From me, Hassan, it's good night.